Well, it might be your party, but they'll crash it if they want to. And listen up, Tea Partiers, they are crashing. Are you listening? Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and only 8 days before a nationwide Tea Party, some over-caffeinated crashers aiming to lay waste to it. Reports of very well-organized infiltrators trying to mix in and rain on this parade. We'll talk about taxing, but talk about prepared. John O'Hara is organizing a Chicago Tea Party and says he's teed up and teed off and ready. And so is Mark Meckler. He is heading up a similar party outside the Sacramento State House April 15th, which, by the way, we will be covering. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Mark, to you first. How seriously do you take these threats?
You know, honestly, Neil, we don't take them seriously at all, and I'll tell you why. It's not that they don't exist. We expect people to attempt to infiltrate. We expect people to attempt to disturb what we're doing. But the reality is this is a very broad-based grassroots movement. There is no leader at the top. There's no individual event that they could disturb that would cause us a problem nationwide. So also the people, we trust the grassroots. We know that the people are skeptical of anybody approaching them at these events, and we believe that people are going to handle it well. And in fact, we invite everybody to come to our events. We don't care whether they're from Acorn, the Huffington Post, Daily Cause. We want them all there. We're excited to have them attend.
All right. If they attend, though, John, something tells me they won't be sharing the same placards. Are you worried about that? John, can you hear me?
No, Neil, I'm not worried about it at all. This is a genuine... Yes, I can. Okay. Neil, I'm not worried about it at all. This is a genuine grassroots movement. If Acorn wants to send some of their paid pretend activists to show up, that's fine. They don't have a message that resonates with the American people or resonates with this broad coalition that's upset with the spending that's going on in Washington.
All right, gentlemen, the early reports we're getting from this so-called infiltration plan is that they're going to try to make it look like these are fringe group efforts. This is a fringe, in some extreme cases, even racist undertaking. Mark, how are you going to handle that if that comes up?
You know, I think I would liken it to what I tell my kids when they're on the field in a soccer game, that you let your game speak for itself. We're going to be out there, and thanks to your coverage, Neil, you're doing such an incredible job, and all the Fox there at Folks, what you guys are doing. The people understand what these movements are about. The people who are involved understand that they're not racist, they're not fringe, they're not even partisan. I mean, these are events where we've got people across the board, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, libertarians, you name it, everybody's coming out to these events. So the people who are going to be there actually know what's going on. We count on organizations like Fox to tell the truth about what's going on. We know you guys are fair and balanced, and so we know the real word is going to get out there. We're not worried about these folks polluting the events.
John, I talked to one operative a little earlier. It was not, very supportive of your efforts, who said this is not a million-man march, as if equating the two made sense. What do you make of that? That maybe many in the traditional media are looking at this as just some errant, extreme protesters, and selfish ones at that.
Neil, the bottom line is this is a large group of all sorts of folks from both sides of the aisle, and it's hardly a fringe effort. You know this, as thousands of people have turned out all across the country, in Cincinnati recently, in Orlando recently, on February 27th, and we're expecting even more on tax day. The real fringe group here, again, is these critics, the Acorn with their paid activists. It's a typical left-wing smear campaign with ad hominem attacks rather than getting at the real issues we're talking about.
You know, Mark, it started as sort of this fringe undertaking. If you think about it, a lot of folks were beginning to get angry about all this government spending and nothing to account for it. And then it just grew and grew and grew. Is the pressure on you to get substantially large crowds? And if you don't, you have failed? Or how would you describe it?
Well, you know, Neil, we don't have an exact number, but the first major national protest of this kind was held on February 27th. We estimate there were between 47 and 50 of these events around the nation. There were roughly 30,000 folks came out on that day. Frankly, if we get one more than we had last time, we're a huge success. We already know that we have in excess of 500 events on the books. We're estimating crowds in excess of 5,000 to 10,000 at many locations. So I think no matter what happens on April 15th, this movement is already a success. And unlike the Million Man March, I mean, we think it's great that they could get big numbers out on one day, but we're creating a permanent activist grassroots network that is going to demand fiscal responsibility at every single level of government. We're talking from school boards, city councils, boards of supervisors, all the way on up to the federal government. We're permanent, we're here to stay, and we intend to put pressure on the folks that are not representing us.
Well, that's why we at Fox look at this as an event. You don't have to take sides on it. It is a force of nature, this rage. But what I'm worried about, John, and I don't know whether you share it, is this idea that you still have a president who's very popular, programs of his that are a little less popular, but a public comfort level with more spending being the cure for what economically ails us. Does that trouble you?
I don't know if we're necessarily seeing that trend, Neil. I think President Obama's popularity on the issues is actually decreasing, and with the sheer number of people that are turning out for this, you can see that support is quickly eroding for solutions, trying to spend our way out of problems as we've been seeing lately.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both very, very much. We'll continue covering this because, guys, here at Fox, our view is very simple on this stuff. We don't pick and choose what events we cover. If this has a magnitude and a populist support that this does, just as a Million Man March or a March on Washington, this is big. And on April 15th, it will be very big. And in Sacramento, it will be so big that we figure we should be there to monitor it, to watch it, and to see thousands of people converge on the State House demanding accountability, not only from the State House, but from the federal government. We are going to be watching it very closely. Well, first,